Hello everybody and welcome back to Pravus Gaming and more Banished Colonial Charter version 1.71, the final video of this series, which I do believe is going to be a shorter than usual video, in no small part because, well, I mean, as the views for this series have been dwindling, so have the comments and suggestions, so there wasn't a lot more that people were asking for than what I've already done, with a couple of notable exceptions, and I'll get to that in just a minute, but first, before we do that, I think it actually is a good opportunity to reflect a little bit on just how far we have come with this series, because it's very easy to lose sight of that as you are playing. But really think about it. Go back to the very, very beginning of this series, and we started with absolutely nothing. We were playing a hard game on harsh conditions. We had only a cart and a handful of families. Practically nothing. But we got ourselves situated. We started with the Crossroads build, built up a forest area, a little small food gathering, housing area around that, and then gradually started expanding out toward the lake. The big honkin' lake. Built out some market, built out some more infrastructure, more housing, more all sorts of stuff. And then gradually we started to experiment a bit more with some of the new mechanics in the game, some of the keys for food, some of the industry. We found out that charcoal is absolutely the best trading good you can mass produce, bar none. And then just continue to expand and find more and more stuff. We eventually got our hands on some seeds, got some agriculture going, got some valley farming, and we expanded out across the lake to a second area, and we got more stuff, more industry, more farms. We got wine and tobacco and all sorts of things you would expect from a proper colony. We built out a little lake town and all sorts of stuff. I mean, we really grew quite a bit until we got to this point where we are right now. And seriously, this is a pretty decent-sized town as far as I'm concerned. And we built very well around the lake. Now, right now, we only have about 320 population. It actually was higher than that before. Actually got up to about 400 population in between this video and the last video. But, well, you know how you have nomads who come in every once in a while? Well, yeah, after that, you can usually expect a baby boom, and it turned out that we grew so rapidly I couldn't feed everyone. So I couldn't build any more houses, so eventually the population aged too much and started dying off pretty rapidly. But now we've kind of reached a new equilibrium, which I think will do just fine. Anyway, alright, so yeah, I just wanted to do that quick recap for those of you who, you know, didn't actually watch the entire series, but you actually like to come in with the last video and be all like, oh, this is so cool. You know, you could have watched the whole thing, but I love you anyway. It's okay. That was for your benefit. Alright, so, epilogue, right? What did I do in between the last thing? Well, expanded more. I already told you that we had some population issues kind of going on. We actually had a disaster that you missed, a tornado. You know what? Let me just show you what that looked like, because that was a whole nother beast in and of itself. We seem to have developed a small problem, everybody. We got a tornado that's now going right through the center of the town. Oh no! Why? I worked so hard on this town, and a tornado just wants to come through and just demolish straight through the middle. Oh, right through the center. It couldn't possibly be worse. Listen to the bells. There's so many people dying. No. No. Freaking nature, you're horrible. Nature's awful. I hate nature. Oh, God. It's destroyed everything. This is terrible. Oh. Could it possibly get worse than this? Like, that was a critical hit, if I ever saw one, right there. Critical hit from that tornado. And we're back down to our 250 population. No! Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that was, pretty fun. Pretty darn fun right there. But we recovered nicely. It just took a while and a lot of resources. But anyway, you can see it's been a long time. So there's two big projects that I worked on in between this video and the last video that I said I would work on. One was an army base. Let's go ahead and move up to the north, past all the farms. And here we go. I got myself a nice little palisade fort, star fort kind of thing going on here. Look at that. It's not so bad. Of course, this is entirely customized. There are a handful of, you know, like pre-done buildings, but as far as like the walls and the towers and getting all this stuff situated, all custom. And just keep in mind that these cosmetic features are not free, right? You have to still gather up materials and build every one of them. So it took a long time to get this thing built. But when it's done, I mean, it's not so bad. You got a little drill practice field, a musket range, you got a camps and stuff like that, some barracks, a big honkin' magazine. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty darn authentic. It's not huge, it's not super flashy, it's not a castle, but it's exactly what you would expect for the new world. Now let me go a little bit over some of the features of this fort, because I do think that this is kind of interesting. It's not the strongest point of the mod pack, in my opinion, but it's still worth looking into. So, palisades and stuff, exactly what you'd expect it to be. However, there are a few special resources and buildings that you should take note of. One of the most important is the quartermaster. The way the quartermaster is going to work is that every year, on a semi-annual basis, basically, you're going to get a shipment of military supplies, presumably from our country's navy. And you can use that to build most of the other buildings in a fort. Without these, though, without the military supplies, you're kind of stuck. So these are really the most important things that you can build along a river ASAP. And using some of those, you're able to create things like, for example, the blockhouse right here. Now, the blockhouse requires some cannons, which I actually bought from a merchant using a ton of coal, some muskets, and those military supplies. But the way that this thing is going to work, it generates a small amount of money because you're basically you're enforcing a toll road of sorts. Like, you are spending the military power to enforce the road, to make sure everything's safe. As a result, you collect a toll on those who do use it. So, you can see here that the blockhouse is actually producing silver pfennigs, which is our currency. So that's kind of cool. It's not a lot, right? It's not a lot of money. Is it really important that every colony have this? No, probably not. I mean, I've never used silver pfennigs, but there you go. It's a thought, and you use up one of your garrisons in order to make it work. Now, silver pfennigs actually do become kind of important if you are going to build out a fort, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. The other thing we built here is a work camp. This is actually what you use your part of what you use your silver pfennigs for. These things right here use up tools and the silver that you're collecting with the blockhouse in order to produce all sorts of random stuff. In this case, I got a tiny bit of glass and a tiny bit of logs. Is it worth it? Not in my opinion, but it's certainly there, and again, that requires a garrison. Musket range also requires silver pfennigs to pay your troops, and hardtack bread in order to feed them. And you have a soldier. I think that's what it was. Yes, a soldier works here. And what does he get for you? Apparently charcoal. I don't know. Apparently he shoots the wooden blocks and they start smoldering or something. I don't know, but he gets charcoal harvested out of that. But that's something that you would use your money for. There's also the uniform maker, which uses up cloth and cured leather in order to make full livery, which is basically your uniforms. So that's kind of cool, I suppose. And I built a blacksmith as well, just so that I would be able to make some muskets. I'm not sure why it's set to iron tools right now. It's supposed to be muskets. It was on muskets, but something changed. Anyway, drill field does nothing. It's purely for cosmetics. The barracks, as far as I can tell, works very similar to your lodging cabins thing that we had, you know, over here. What was it called? We had a coaching inn. There was another one, though. I don't know. The room and board. The thing that people go to. Apparently the barracks, as far as I can tell, functions very similarly, but otherwise not too useful. And then the magazine is basically a very large barn. It stores a ton of stuff. Huge capacity. But that's all that it is. So this is the base. We generate a little bit of silver so that we can get other things to work, even though they don't really produce anything useful, and it looks kind of cool, right? Something situated nicely between the town and the river. A good first line of defense against any potential threats for whatever reason. Now, though, now that I've talked a bit about that for a few minutes, let's talk about the crown jewel of New Cardiff. First off, I built out this little area a little bit. We got ourselves some new Old Town markets, new brewery, and stuff like that. Built out a quay. I even put in a decorative ship. It doesn't make a lot of sense. What is the ship gonna do? It can't go anywhere because I blocked off the lake. But there it is. But no, that's not what you're here to see. What you're here to see is the governor's mansion. And oh boy, did I work on this. It took me a few hours. But here you go. Yeah. Not bad in my opinion. I could have made it bigger, but this seemed like about as much as I really needed it to be. I kind of like it personally. So you come down through here, you go into the main courtyard, you got some bronze statues, some shrines, a little bit of ponds, some awesome, you know, topiary. I won't say it's topiary, they're just tall spindlewood trees, basically. And then this is the mansion. Now, there wasn't an actual governor's mansion that I could use, so what I ended up having to do was take several houses that look very similar to each other and kind of splice them together in such a way that their roofs actually kind of made a little bit of sense without being too symmetric. And then I did add a little bit of kind of a covering area so you could have a patio out the back and stuff. And it looks very posh. It looks like one giant building, which is appropriate as far as I'm concerned. The only silly thing about it is that it has 2 front doors. That's it, and I think that was a fair trade to make. Otherwise, really, the cool stuff here is the garden. I mean, look at this. Now, this is based on my experience going to the Colonial mansions in, like, Williamsburg, Virginia. This is also based a little bit of my experience walking around in Versailles, although obviously Versailles in Paris is, a lot bigger than this. But the point is, I wanted to kind of base something off that. So you come out here and you have just lots of gardens, lots of rows of bushes, very well neat and trimmed, and you have things kind of blocked off into hedge sections and stuff with a centerpiece, which seemed kind of appropriate to me. There's a statue of us, well, presumably, the Colonial governor out of stone, surrounded by some peach trees because I like peaches. And there's a little bit of a garden off in the back, just because you never know, the lady of the house might have a bit of a green thumb and she likes to fancy herself as someone who actually goes out there and works with the earth. Maybe she does, who knows, New Cardiff still has humble roots, but anyway. Some of the nice colored trees, nice and lined. We got some vines that are growing down here on the off chance they ever wanted to have their own private vintage. And over here on the left, I actually built some new types of houses that line up very nicely with each other. These will be the servants' houses, effectively. But they're kind of like townhouses. They stack up really nicely to each other, just off to the side, kind of their own separate living arrangements apart from the Lord and Lady of New Cardiff. And there you go! That's not half bad in my opinion. I think this looks really cool. I've told you guys before that Banished can look like a beautiful game if you do it right. But this is all entirely customized, and I am super duper proud of it personally. I think it looks very authentic. Every single thing here had to be built from scratch. Every single thing here took some resources. It took me hours to get this dang thing built. But there you go. And just across, because it makes some sense, we actually cross into some of the new governmental buildings over here, and I did put down a British flag because I couldn't find a Welsh flag. But anyway, here's some of the new governmental buildings. You haven't seen these yet. We have a courthouse, which requires a cleric. It doesn't really produce anything, but you know, it's there. Actually, let's take a quick look-see. Does it tell us what it does? Does it say anything? You can't find out. We have no idea what the courthouse does, but it's there! And I think maybe it produces a little bit of happiness or something. You have a Colonial Hall, which is a new type of town hall, basically does the exact same stuff. And then you have the Governor's Office, which I believe collects taxes from the local people, just like the blockhouse. But either way, I wanted to have that stuff kind of off in a larger courtyard area just outside of the Governor's Mansion, because it makes sense to have a governmental center, really right here. And of course, wherever there's going to be a governmental center and stuff, you have to have the Lord's Church, the Governor's personal church with, you know, all the townsfolk, but that's where he goes. The biggest honkin' church I could find. Put some bushes out front and stuff. Made it nice. Got the cemetery. Would you believe that this cemetery has only been here for about 2 years, and we filled it up? Yeah, I've had a lot of people dying on me lately, but, that's what you get. So that's what New Cardiff looks like, guys. It's huge, it's gorgeous. I couldn't quite build all the way around the lake, but most of it's mountainous anyway, so I think that's fine. I'm super thrilled with how this turned out. Everything else here, of course, looks quite good. We are finally self-sufficient, producing plenty of food, plenty of fuel. We're just waiting for the next baby boom to come along and make these guys a little bit larger, a little bit more in charge. Otherwise, though, this has been one heck of a journey, and I am super duper happy with how this turned out. But I do think that this is a good, natural ending for our Banished series. Version 1.71, lots of fun. Lots of fun. And I do think that version 1.75 is probably better. Will I do a series on this? On 1.75? Probably not, just because the views weren't that great, but, you know, I could always be persuaded. At the end of the day, I play whatever I'm in the mood for. Give me another year or two, or maybe less, I really don't know, I won't make any promises, but Banished is one of those games that I always come back to because I really enjoy it, and who knows, I might even come back to it on YouTube. Really depends on you guys, and just kind of the mood that I'm in, and if maybe they make some more updates to the game. Who knows? Maybe I'll wait for the next version, 1.8 something, I don't know yet. We'll think about that, though. I make no promises. All I know is I've had a lot of fun, and I hope that you guys have too. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed. If so, then please consider hitting that like button to show me your support, ending out this series. Leave a comment with your ideas, your suggestions, your comments. Did I do good? Because I think I did good. And of course, subscribe if you have not already. My name is Pravus, and I will see you guys next time.